Frenzy. This video is a part of the Beginner's Guide to Masking in Blender series. Each video builds upon the information from the previous video, so if you're a beginner, it's best to watch them in order. And if you don't want to wait for them to come out one at a time on YouTube, you can get the entire series all at once for free by going to blenderfrenzy.gumroad.com. Just click on Frenzy Freebies, where you can get lots of stuff to follow along with my tutorials. Just click Add to Cart, and then check out. Fill in your email address, and use discount code FREEBIE to get $0 per month. Or, of course, you can pay $2 a month to show your support if you want. It's up to you, but either way, you will have access to lots of videos and files to follow along with my tutorials. Also, I've created a standalone course for this series that you can purchase if you want to say thank you. You will get everything from the Frenzy freebies, plus you will get access to my finished blend files, and you'll be able to download the videos for offline playback. So, thank you for your support, and on with the show. Welcome to Blender Frenzy. I am Justin, and I apologize for my sound. My headset is going out. I am in the market for another. This is a little bit old, and you guys are probably like, yes, finally, because some of you have said my sound is not very good, but pretty soon I'll be investing in a new one. I'm continuing my series on a beginner guide to using masks in Blender. And basically a mask is a black and white image that another image uses as information for transparency. So fully white is fully visible and fully black is fully invisible or transparent. And then all the shades of gray in between are shades of transparency. My last video, I did an overview of using masks in Blender. If you haven't seen that, I recommend checking that out. But for this video, we are going to use the video sequence editor, and we're going to use a color strip to use for our mask. Now, you can either come up here to File, New, and then Video Editing. But I'm actually going to come over here to Video Editing and Video Editing here to add a new workspace. And then I'm going to come over here to this corner of the preview here and then click and drag. And if I drag, you can see that arrow here. And then I'm just going to release. And then that collapses this window into that one because I don't need that window. Now, the very next thing I want to do is come up here to my render properties and scroll all the way down. Make sure my color management says standard instead of filmic. And that's really important when you're working with video. In the video sequence editor, you have this. If you come up to File and do New Video Editing, I think this is set for you. But just make sure that you have that as standard. Okay, let's hover our mouse over here and then Shift A to add in an image, and then just navigate to your image. And there we go. I've got it pulled in. Now, I'll include this image in my Frenzy freebies on Gumroad. And this one is a modified image of something that you can find on places like Pixabay. I think I downloaded this one from Pixabay. But I modified it to make it 1920 by 1080. So if you download it yourself from Pixabay, you might have to mess with the dimensions. I'm just going to grab this and move it up a little bit. And then I'm going to scroll out here and, oh yeah, I'm going to also, because you can't see this over my bubble head here. Also, you can see my clicks down here. The reason I'm using this here is because the screencast keys for Blender does not work in 2.93, which is what I'm using here. Here, everything should be the same, except for I just added a little area over here so my head didn't cover anything. Let's just collapse it for now. But I am going to go, let's see, we're going to change this to half of 250, so I'm just going to be divided by 2 here. And then we're going to go all the way to the end, click the right arrow, and then it will bring me to 126. You see here, the end is 125. And the reason I'm doing this, if you click this handle, press Shift S to snap it to the end, you can see that you still don't see the image here. But if I go back one by hitting the left arrow, we can again see our image. And the reason is because at the end of the strip, it's technically the next frame, which there isn't anything on the next frame. So I want to have it where if I go all the way to the beginning, I can see it, and all the way to the end, I can see it, because it still has one more frame on there. Anyway, I'm gonna, with this selected, I'm gonna press the period on the numpad to zoom in here a little bit. And then I'm going to duplicate that by Shift D, press Y to constrain it to the Y axis. Just move that down here. And then I'm going to H to hide that because we're going to use that later. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning, and then I'm going to Shift A and add in a color because this is what we're going to be using as our mask. So I'm going to take this handle, press G, and as I move my mouse, just press and hold Control, and that's going to snap it to the end here. And then with my color still selected, come over here to your properties. If you don't see this, just press N on the keyboard. You can see that down here. And then you have your effects strip here, and just change this to white, because white is, again, completely visible. But we want to resize this here. So let's go down here to transform. And then I'm going to just take that Y down a little bit here. So something like this. And I'm just going to adjust this here a little bit. So that's a little bit bigger up there. So here is 0.46. I'm just going to say 0.45 just to make that cleaner. You can click in there and type. And then I'm going to rotate this. So we're going to rotate this around to the corners. And I'm going to scroll out here just a little bit. You can see the edges of the color strip don't quite reach the corners. So we're going to scale this on the X, which is pretty easy. Again, in the newer versions of Blender, this is really easy. If you're using a version before 2.92, you won't be able to see this. You'll actually have to use a transform strip, which is if you select your color, Shift A, go to effect strip, and then transform. And then that transform strip will have your transform options on there, but that's a real big pain. So I recommend using Blender 2.92 and above. Okay, so this is about, let's see, what is 30? Yeah, we'll just do 30. Again, making that a little cleaner. This one, actually, I'm gonna type in 3 here because I want that scaled really long because we're gonna be moving it later. But anyway, so this is our mask. And at the beginning and before in my other videos, I said a mask is a black and white image. Well, this one is technically black and white. All the transparent areas that you see here are black. And if we come over here to color, you can see this here, it's the same. If we were to keep this at color and alpha and render this out into a video, it would be a black background. You could export this as a PNG, any image with transparency, then this would be transparent. But for our sake, it doesn't matter. We can just treat this as transparent. So now let's select our London picture and then come over to modifiers, and we're going to add a strip modifier mask. Make sure your mask input type, not tip, that's type, is strip. So select that and then click in mask and select our color strip. And ta-da! We are now using a mask for our photo, but we can't see it because we still have our color on top of it. So we're just going to select our color and press H. And you can see it's still using the mask even though it's hidden. And this is what it looks like. Now, if we want to see just one of these strips, we can hover over the strip, press and hold Shift, and then click and drag the right mouse button. And then this is a good way to see what each strip looks like without having to hide and unhide it. And actually what we're going to do is we're just going to hide this London one for now. And we're going to select the bottom one and Alt-H to unhide it. And then we're just going to come over here to our strip tab and scroll down, go to color, and then saturation. I'm just going to bring the saturation all the way down. And now if I Alt-H the one above it, you can see, oh, the one beneath it disappears. And that is because this one is not alpha over. So we have our blend mode as cross. We're just going to change that to alpha over. And now we have our color with the mask over the black and white image. And this is a cool little stylized thing, maybe used for a brochure or a promo of London. Hey, come to London, tourist or something. But I'm going to tweak this a little bit more, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's select our color. And let's come down here to, let's just make this a little bit thicker. That's going to be on the Y. So I'm just going to bring that Y up. And as I click and drag, you can see that you can't see anything really happening here. And that's because when you move this, for some reason, Blender doesn't show it in real time, at least not the modifier applied to something. So you have to hover your mouse over the sequencer and press Control R to refresh. and then it will refresh that. Now, it is a bit tedious to have to go back and forth, and you don't know where it is, so you kind of have to guess. And then you back over here, Control R, it's like, oh no, that's not it. So instead of going back and forth like that, what you can do is just temporarily unhide your color strip, and then it will show in real time. So then you can kind of figure out, okay, where do I want this? Now, again, this is blend mode cross, so you can't see anything beneath it. Select the alpha over again, and now we can decide how much of that we want. And you can see where the original was, and then maybe that is a little bit bigger here, like that. So I'm just going to do 0.6 there. I think that's good. And then hide that, and then Control R to refresh. Oh, maybe it was already at 0.6. Well, anyway, I like 0.6, but that's the way you can do it. And it's the same thing with rotation and movement and everything. And speaking of movement, let's add some animation to this. So let's go to the beginning here, and we're going to add a keyframe. So let's temporarily unhide this again so that we can see this in action. This time we're going to go to the Y position, and we're going to bring this up just a little bit. So something like maybe right here. So 147, I'm just going to say 140, not 154, 145. And then right next to it, I'm just going to click this button. It'll add a keyframe there. Okay, so then I'm going to go to the end by clicking this button. And then we're going to move this down, something like this. Negative 308. We'll do negative 310. And then click that button again to add a keyframe. And to see our keyframes, we can now drag this one up, and then there are our keyframes. But instead of using the timeline, this is the timeline over here, if you can see, I'm actually going to drag this down because I still want to have these buttons available, but I'm going to come over here in the corner until my cursor turns into a crosshair, click and drag up. And this is going to pull out a duplicated version of our sequencer. I'm just going to adjust this. We're going to pull this up, but I'm going to make this one a dope sheet. So just select dope sheet, and now you can see this here. I'm just going to collapse all that just to make it summary. And there we go. And the reason I'm doing this is so you can see the type of animation we have here. Well, let's go ahead and first see our animation in action. So you can see this is our animation right here. And it's going a little bit slower because it's caching stuff in. So after you let it go once, it should cache everything in. And now you can see this is kind of what that would look like. And if we hide our color, it's going to have to cache in again. But you can see that this is kind of the idea that we're going for here. And this is kind of a cool, again, little motion graphic if you were making something for a promo for an event in London or for tourism or something. And you can put little, words or motion graphic, text and stuff here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these here and then press Control G to make them a meta strip. I'm going to add another form of animation here. So let's go back to the beginning, and I'm going to come over here and click this button where it says only show selected. So I have this meta strip. If I don't have this, it's going to show everything that has a keyframe on it. I'm just going to click this one. So I just have the meta strip selected, so there's no keyframes yet on my meta strip. So with that selected, I'm going to come over here to our scale. Make a keyframe for these two buttons. And now let's go to the end by clicking that button. And then now we can click and drag down, type 1.2, and then click and click. So now we have keyframes at the start and at the end. And now if we press play, you can see it also zooms in as that is going. And so I think that gives it a nice forward kind of momentum. But what I don't like about this is that it's a Bezier curve. So it starts off slow, it speeds up, and then it slows down because it's animating on a curve. And now you could come to your animation tab over here and you could see it's not showing that. I'm just going to, just for giggles, I'm going to go to the graph editor and then just say home. That's what a Bezier curve looks like. So that's what our meta strip looks like. And actually, if we come in here and we select this one again, now you can see that green line. And if we come over back to our animation and we press home, you can see there's not a curve, it's just a straight line. And this is just a pro tip here that I found out some time ago. In the dope sheet, this shows a straight line if it's a linear motion. So our color is already on a linear motion. But if I tab out, by the way, to go inside and outside of a meta strip, you can tab in and out of that. So I'm outside now and I'm selecting our meta strip. You can see there is no straight line in here. That means this is not a linear animation. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a Bezier curve, but it does mean that it's not linear. So to change that, press A just to make sure both of them are selected or all of the keyframes are selected. Press T, and this brings up our interpolation. And I'm just going to select linear. And once I do that, you can see that green line that we had before. And then if I go to the beginning and press play, you can see now it's a straight line, which means it's at a constant speed throughout the entire animation. So yeah, so that looks pretty cool there. And again, you can add text and whatever. We're not going to do that in this video, but this is an idea of what you can do with masks using color strips in the video sequence editor. I'm going to take it one step further though. Let's go tab in here and color. If I select my color and add in an effect strip, Gaussian Blur, and then I take my Gaussian Blur and I blur it. So I'm going to click and drag in here. I'm just going to type 100. And then you can see this blur. Now it's doing some funny things here, and I'll show you why. If we hide our blur, you can see, let's press Control R just to make sure. Yep, our London isn't being blurred. Well, why is that? Well, that's because it's not using the Gaussian blur strip as its mask. We still have the color strip being used as the mask. And if we shift right click, you can see the color strip is not blurred itself. It's actually the Gaussian blur that's interpolated over that. So we're going to go to our London image, go to modifiers, and we're going to choose Gaussian blur instead of color. And ta-da, there you go. Now it changes. But what happens now is if I play it, oh my goodness, look how slow this animation is. This is terrible. So to get around this, what I recommend if you do want to have that blur on there, but you don't want Blender to start freaking out with all the calculation it needs to do that, what you can do, or what you should do, is let's just hide everything. Unhide just the Gaussian blur, and then select our color and come to strip, and we're going to clear our rotation. So just 0 there, so it's a straight thing. And the reason why we're doing this is because if we kept it at 30, then when we exported it out as an image and re-import it, which is what we're about to do, it would skew very weird, and we'd have to mess with the X and the Y scale, and it'd just be harder to do. So it's easier just to keep this as a straight line like this. And now what we can do is press F12 and then come over to our rendering. Now I have in my preferences, let me show you. Under temporary editors here, I have render and keep user interface. Most likely you're going to have new window or image editor where a new window is going to pop up if you press F12. That's fine. You can choose what you want. I just like to have nothing pop up and just go to the rendering tab for this. So what we can do, we don't actually need to do this, but I want to show you, we're in the color and alpha right now. And remember, if we just select color, this is what we're going to be exporting. You can change this here or not. It doesn't really matter, because what matters is when we come over to our image, we can do save as, and then I'm just going to create a new directory called materials. And then I'm going to title this mask blur. And I don't want PNG, I'm going to do a JPEG, and it's just going to be a black and white image. And then I'm just going to save that, and this is what it will look like. So let's go back over to our video editing, and these are going to give us trouble here. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete those. And I'm going to go ahead, we'll go ahead and save this, which I hadn't done yet, by the way, so make sure you're saving often. Okay, so now I'm just going to delete those, Control R to refresh, and then we're going to go back to the beginning here. And now what I'm going to do is Shift A, image, and then just navigate to your image that you just saved. And I'll bring this up over that, and we're going to position this again. Okay, so let's unhide this one. Actually, we can unhide both of them, and then take the mask, hide it, and then take our London and choose our mask blur. Ta-da! And if we play, it's really smooth now. Of course, we don't have any keyframes on this because we haven't animated this yet, but let's go ahead and do that. Come over here to the strip, and we had a 30-degree rotation, and this is what I mean by skewing. So all I have to do is, I don't even have to do the Y here because this is exactly how wide I want it, but I could do that, and it'd be very easy to do that. But I'm just going to do it on the X scale here. So just type in 3 like I had it before, and ta-da, this is what we're going to use. And again, we don't have to worry about the transparency because both the black and the checkered transparent background will be transparent. So hide this and Control R to refresh, and there we go. So that is where we want it started, but again, we have to actually animate it. So let's go to the beginning, add in a keyframe. Let's move this though first. I want to move it up just like, what do we have? We had that at, well, we'll just do 120 here for now. Why not? And then at the end, we'll go, we'll do -230. Okay, now let's hide this and see what we have. Okay, now it plays a lot more smoothly. And let's tab back out and see what we have here. Oh yeah, there we go. That's beautiful. Beautimus. So there you go. That is a simple way of using a color strip in the video sequence editor to make a mask to make something look cool and stylistic. And we could even, do other things too. Like we could take the London and we could make it a little bit more multiplied here. Make that lighter, something like that. We could also do the same thing here with this one. And then we could even come to each one of these and add other modifiers like curves or a color balance. Give those a bit of a purple tint, and then punch those up. Of course, it doesn't have to be fully desaturated. We can actually pull color into this and just use a modifier to, make some other kind of cool adjustments here. Maybe bring this down, make it darker and bluer. And then this one we can just, we can also add in, well, let's do curves here just for the sake of being different. Make those colors pop a little bit more like that. Yeah, there you go. So something like that. Okay, so anyway, this is a very simple way that you could use color strips in the video sequence editor for masks, giving videos and pictures cool and stylized effects. This is just one example of many ways you could use this type of effect in Blender's VSE. But in the next few videos, I will be showing you other editors and how to create and use masks in them. So stay tuned and you'll see me over there.